Okay, it's the end of the session. I've got Bailey here who seemed to have settled down. Maybe it's because Leo's here. Leo's on the right and the white. And this is their roadmap to success. Bailey kind of runs the show, and Leo, she's the older dog by about 363 days. And Leo came in after her. They're not good buddies in terms of playing, but they hang out and they don't have any problems. But she does kind of run the show. She wants to get down, so we're going to go ahead and let her. And Leo, you can get down if you want to as well, buddy. I don't want to force you. Uh, so basically, I think that, and I've had this dynamic happen where the dominant or more confident dog loses its confidence when it stops getting everything at once. And the guardian is unaware that he's petting the dog for jumping up right now. And there's going to be a lot of that. You're going to catch yourself petting your dog for the behaviors that you don't want because you've been doing it for a long time. Don't worry about it. When somebody calls you out on it, just immediately stand up or stop doing it. And it'll take you about, it took you about 3 months to get in this habit. It's going to take you 3 months to get out of this habit. It's actually harder to break an old established habit than it is to start a new one. So it might even take longer than that. That's why we use watchwords, and I'll talk about those here in a second. First thing I talked about was exercise, because although the dogs are not high energy dogs, they're probably a little bit under exercised. So we want to see some creative ways of exercising the dog. The first one is the doggy stairmaster, throwing treats up and down the stairs, or throwing them down so the dog runs up and down the stairs. And for all these, I'm just going to go give you the topics of them. If you have any questions on any of these, let me know. I have a video that kind of goes over all the rules and all the detail, but I'm just going to give you the highlights because this is a summary. So the dog, remember the first time do this with an empty stomach, and and max them out. Keep on doing it with one dog at a time with an empty stomach until the dog's like, you're crazy, I'm not going down there anymore. Now we know what the dog's maximum number is. You want to exercise about 50 to 75% of that maximum number multiple times a day. Remember saying the command word when the dog licks up the treat, and then so you throw on the bottom of the stairs, it goes and gets it, comes back up, gets another treat, call it Canada for going up the stairs, and do it as many times as they will when they just say, till the first time until they say, you're crazy, I'm not doing it anymore. That's the maximum number. Once you know that, then you exercise 50 to 75% of that maximum number. Every 2 to 4 hours is the ideal time to exercise them. They do sleep a lot. When you're at work, you don't have to worry about having somebody come home and exercise them. But when you're here, maybe before you go to work, I would exercise them, just with remember, not with that anything in their stomach. Other things we did, the laser, they seemed both very interested in laser, and they weren't whining and getting apprehensive. Some dogs, the laser is not a healthy thing for them to have. These dogs, I think they'd be great for them, but remember, there's only so much usage you'll get out of that laser. Other ones, playing fetch. Bailey likes to fetch, but she doesn't always drop, so I went over how to teach a dog to drop. Remember, just hold the treat out in front of their nose when they have a low value item, a toy that they're allowed to have, and as soon as they drop it on their own, pop the treat in. Don't say drop. Just give them the drop after the fact. When I give a dog command, I say it in 2 stages, the command stage, and I repeat it again during the reward stage. The command stage is to tell the dog what to do. I only do that when I know the dog has the verbal cue. Then I say it a second time to label or let the dog know why they are getting the payment or the reward or whatever it is. So I tell the dog to sit. If it sits the first time I say it, then I pet it and say sit. If it doesn't sit, I would just show it I got other things going on. The more that we keep on repeating it, the more the dog's like, oh yeah, you revolve around this finger. No. I'm going to ask you to do it. If you do it, great, you get a reward. If not, nothing happens. So that's petting with purpose. We'll talk about that in a sec. So basically, once you taught the dog to drop, then you can start playing fetch a little bit more efficiently. And again, I would count the number of fetches with an empty stomach to figure out what that maximum number is. Also, for all these physical activities, make sure you talk to your vet and make sure your vet signs off on them. I don't see any reasons, but there was a little bit of a hitch in Leo, I would say Louis, Leo's giddy up. And so for that, make sure the same orientation the camera is here, probably about 7 to 10 feet away. Next time you see him get up, just kind of hold your camera sideways and film it. Try to be close enough so that the vet can actually see what's going on when you show them the video. But if you go up and down, they always get out of the picture too quick. And so if you have a couple examples, he can look at it. And it's not nothing egregious, but there might be something going on and it's hard to recreate in a vet's office. So, all right. So other forms of exercise, walking, of course. When we're walking, remember, sniffing burns more energy than the locomotion of walking. So let them walk. Just don't let Leo mark. I would probably get rid of the retractable leash and have a straight leash for both of them. About a 6-foot leash for each one. They could have 6 feet of leeway. Now, if either one of them are lunging on the leash, you want to teach them some good manners. We were pausing it because of the winter, because it was supposed to be really cold out. It's been really nice. But in March, we're going to start those classes up again. So if you want to do that, I would just recommend doing it with one dog. more advantageous for us to have both dogs, but you can just do it one and then learn the technique and do it with the second dog. We don't use any treats for it. It's the same technique they use for horses, so you can't physically manhandle a horse unless you're that big. But basically, it's a nice way that teaches the dog not to walk next to you, but not to pull or lunge on the leash. And it also works with dogs that have reactivity issues, which Bailey does a little bit. I think her reactivity, from what I've seen, is probably a result of being a little insecure and thinking she's in charge of her human and the territory. So I think it's kind of a combination of several things. Other forms of exercise, getting a snuffle mat, or actually I would get two, and then feeding out of the Omega Paw treat ball. Now, I would get them eating their regular food first through structured eating before we transition. If you go to doggoneproblems.com, if I say video for the rest of this video, if you go to doggoneproblems.com, click on where it says dog training tips. That's the section I have all these videos, including this one. So on the right or the bottom of the page, you can search for invisible boundary or structured feeding, which is what I would recommend you watch for the dogs. So I'd probably feed Bailey first, because she has more of the behavior that we're looking for. Usually we go to age or seniority, but then sometimes there's other dynamics involved. So let's say Bailey's normally the first dog to get fed, but then she starts being a pill and barking to demand for you to hurry up. She might lose that privilege, and Leo now gets to eat in first position. Remember, eating is the most important activity for dogs. So just when we're doing it, that structure feeding, you're going to put the food down, call one dog over to eat after whoever's feeding is eating something. And if your dog doesn't eat or within a couple minutes, or he walks away, or we're going to pick up the bowl, dump it empty, put the bowl back down. Please watch the video on structure feeding. That is a super duper easy exercise. It'll take you about a week or two to master. But then after that, every single time you feed your dog, that's rewarding it. Every time you feed your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session. My whole philosophy is really designed on showing you little twists to things you're going to do anyways. And if you just add that little twist every time you do it, you're rewarding the dog. And I wouldn't even shake my hand. If he does it again, I would just lean further back in the couch, pull out your phone, pretend like you're checking an email or checking an actual email, show the dog that they're whining. But the thing that's hard is most people forget that good attention, bad attention is the same thing. Now, the guardian just asked the dog to sit and then rewarded the dog for sitting. I was going to talk about this earlier, and I decided not to. I'll do it here since this happened twice. In Taylor's puppy class, I was teaching a makeup class, and I was telling the guy, "Hey, celebrate, pet that dog for sitting." He goes, but he was whining when he sat. So sometimes you start off that way, you just sit and I'll pet you, but then it becomes sit, and if you're whining when you sit, nuh-uh, I want the full, the whole Monty, or whatever you call that expression. So, and the whimpering would cause me to stop petting a dog if he was petting and I stopped. There you go, that's the example, that little hitch in the giddy up right there. And instead of saying good job, remember, say just the command word. It's going to take you guys a little while to get out of the habit of doing all these things. So don't beat yourself up on it. If you do it the wrong way, just do it the right way. Even if you're late, do it the right way after the fact, and eventually you'll do it the right way first. Okay, now when he's like this and whimpering, and he's going basically from one guardian to the next saying, I want some attention, this should be interpreted as, I have too much energy. I need to be, I don't know why I air quoted that, but I need some exercise. So that would be a good illustration to go to the stairs and spend 2 minutes on the stairs, or play fetch, or go for a quick walk. Depleting that excess energy is going to go a long ways towards helping them behave better. All right. So feeding them out of the Omega treat ball and the snuffle mat would be good things to do after you've gotten them eating regularly, and watch that video on structured feeding. That does not sound like your dogs. Those are bigger dogs. So Bailey's barking because the neighbor dog is barking. And she's like, I'm in charge around here. Who are you to bring someone? Or she might be saying, he's barking. I agree with him, or her, whoever that dog is. So demand barking is actually similar in terms of the dogs that mark, is no free pets, no furniture. So it sounds like both of them need no furniture, but for different reasons. That's the next thing we talked about were rules, and that was one of the first rules I suggested, now allowing the dogs on the furniture. Sitting at the same height says we're peers. Sitting up here says I have more rank or authority than the humans do. Now, the guardian just picked one of the dogs up and put it down. What I usually do if the dog jumps up, I try to be ready and watching, and as it jumps in the air, I flash my hand up, and then they hit my hand and fall on the floor. We don't want to say hurt your dogs, but they're little dogs. They're not jumping higher than anything that they can't handle. Second thing is, if the dog does jump up and got up there and I wasn't quick enough to prevent it from happening, what I would do is then nudge the dog by the butt. I really try to be force free, so I'd probably do the off command first. So before you maybe eject them from the couches or make it a rule, have some treats. The dog's on your lap. Every time the dog jumps on your lap, make it sit first. Like, this is just temporarily. So this is contrary to what I normally do. So maybe for the next week or two, every time the dog jumps up in your lap, pull the treat out, show the dog you have the treat, and drop it on the floor. When the dog runs off the floor and gets it, say the word off. So now we're putting in context getting down. So if we do that for a week, now we've kind of introduced the concept of getting down and get rewarded. Then the dog jumps up, you can say down. If the dog gets down, then we would maybe give the dog a reward for getting down. So first is to entice them, then it's to motivate and pay them for the action that they do, and we're paying after the fact. Before, we're paying kind of before the fact, or we're bribing them before the fact, really. Okay, so Taylor also went over an out command for all the rooms. So what I usually do is tear a treat in half with one dog away. Just go to every portal or every mat or every area you want them to leave. Throw one treat out, 3 feet out. The dog goes and licks it up. Say the word out, comes back. Throw another treat out. I do 2 outs. For this like area that's right here, there's an area rug. I would out this way, I would out this way, I would out that way. So you can tell the dog and point in a direction they understand to leave. And I do the same thing with the kitchen, the dining room, all the doorways in your house or area rugs or areas you want them to vacate. Then after I've done all the areas in the house with 2 outs, then I grab another bunch of treats. And this time I'm standing outside and I throw the treat onto the carpet and I would call this probably living, if this is the living room. Kitchen, Sam's, or whatever, don't go to Sam's Club with the dog. Well, I guess you probably could. But the idea is we label all the rooms so we can tell the dog to get off the couch, to leave a room. Same technique for the dog bed. If you have any questions on any of those, let us know. Other rules we talked about, you have to sit at the door. Go to the door, tell the dog to sit 1 time. If one of the dogs complies, the door opens for that dog. If neither dog complies within 3 seconds, I sit down nearby and I just wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, I go back to the door and command them again to sit. If they don't sit this time, I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes. Then I sit down for 4 minutes. Make sure you're seated, but double the length of time each time. And eventually, when you go to the door and say sit, they'll boom, butts to the ground. Then you fly the door open. Remember I'm going to go a quick little sidebar on the come. So I would get kind of a tether for Bailey because she does like to run off. She stays in the yard some of the time unless she says squirrel or dog or something like that, and it just might be the wrong time. She chases her might cross the street. That's not going to turn out well for her. So when she's on the tether, get some some warm Chipotle chicken. Well, chicken from wherever. I don't cook. I go to Chipotle. I'm sure here they could probably cook. So get some little piece of chicken that's warm and let her outside and let her sniff around, do her thing, and come back inside, grab the piece of chicken, walk out in the middle of the yard and just stand there and just wait. As soon as she comes to you, give her the treat, say, come, walk back inside. Wait a minute or two. The next time, walk out 1 pace fewer and just repeat. You won't make it past 10 times before the dog just starts running up to you every time you go outside. All right. We also, let me see, other rules. Not allowed in the kitchen where we're preparing food, not around any humans who are eating food. So I'd say if any humans are eating food here, the black carpet is off limits while the human is eating food. The rest of the time you can come and go as you please. Not allowed between the work island and the cabinets in the kitchen when we're preparing food. The rest of the time you can come and go as you please. And you can search for kitchen. I teach people how to use those escalating consequences to enforce invisible boundary. So you can type in invisible or kitchen, and a number of training examples will come up. And if you get hung up on that one, please call me about that as well. We also talked about petting with a purpose of past training. I should say Taylor did. Petting with a purpose is exactly what the name is. Petting the dog for a reason. So the dog comes up to you and jumps up on you, which these dogs do a lot. Instead of validating that, leaders tell, followers ask. So when the dog tells you what to do, even though they're super cute, we're going to give them a counter order and tell them to sit or to lie down. If they're already sitting, ask them to sit over here or ask them to lie down. Do not ask for a shake. Shake confuses a lot of dogs. If they know how to shake, I wouldn't practice that anymore. And so basically, when you tell the dog to sit, if the dog sits within 3 seconds, you pet it under its chin and say the word sit. If it doesn't, playing hard to get works great for dating. It works great for dogs too. I told you to sit. You don't sit. I got other things to do. Pull out your phone. Watch TV. Do whatever else you want to do and show the dog, I got other things going on. I made you number one. You didn't respect it, so now I'm on to the next thing. After a while, the dog will start recognizing and missing that, and they'll recognize I can no longer tell them what to do. I have to ask. And better than ask, I have to pay for the privilege of attention. And I'm paying through a currency of obedience. And I'll go start sitting in front of the person to prepay for that attention. And when it does, you bet your butt, you better start petting it. Pet it once to an infinity number of pets, your choice. But if you don't, they'll go back to jumping or nudging or whatever it is. Now remember to use that watchword of paycheck. If you suspect someone's petting without a purpose, you say paycheck. Even if that person did it right, they stop petting, tell the dog to sit. If it sits, they pet it on their chin, say sit, and then say, actually, I asked the dog to sit and you missed it. And because we just don't realize how often, and remember, it's not a gotcha, busted, you're petting without a purpose. It's, I think you might have forgotten. A paycheck means, excuse me, did you remember to pet with a purpose? No, I didn't. Thank you for reminding me. We also went over passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior that you like and rewarding it within 3 seconds and marking it by saying the command word. Not good sit, just sit. So every time the dog comes to you, pet it and say come. Every time it sits, pet it and say sit, pet it and say crash if it lays down. If they come up, what do we call about this? Hurricane, or he's going around headbanging for Leo or whatever it is. But, if they come up with, name all your individual toys. Call that one Green Hive. And come up with creative names for all the toys. That way you have more vocabulary. It makes it easier for you to communicate what you want. Dogs learn up to 83% faster if you exclusively say the command word during the reward stage. So dog was here, I say sit. If the dog sits, I pet it now a second time and say sit while I treat it or reward it to let it know why it's getting that treat. If you get in a habit of petting with a purpose and passive training, and for passive training, I use the watchword of celebrate. So if you get in a habit of petting with a purpose and passively training your dog, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session that increases the dog's respect for you as an authority figure, helps the dog boost its confidence, and helps it practice sitting or whatever the activity is, which makes it more likely to want to do that. Dogs want to please us. We just do a very poor job of communicating. Right there, that'd be a great time to pet and say, come. Perfect. Now, the whining and the whimpering, I would maybe stop, but that was no whining and whimpering. And that, I would just lean back on the couch. So if we push the dog down, good attention and bad attention for dogs is the same thing. And they have something called an opposition reflex. So a dog jumps up and I push it down, it's programmed to come right back. So what I want to do instead of use operant conditioning, I'm here and the dog jumps up, I lean back, and now I'm on to other things. I'm kind of shunning it essentially in a way, but it's a very powerful way for dogs to learn. And I would definitely get those X mats if you're going to do the furniture, because I think for multiple reasons, I think that would be helpful for you. And then after that period of time, the 90 days or whatever it is, then the dogs will be on the furniture when you invite them, but definitely not where Leo's up here. And that's fine for now because we're shooting the video, but Leo just jumped up here on the couch. And so that would be something, not allowed under any circumstance. You would immediately lose the couch privileges for that. Or if you invite the dog up and starts barking, it would lose that privilege. I don't know if I finished my train of thought before I started talking about the off command. What I do is I would say off, and the dog doesn't go off. Then what I would do is I would push the dog by its butt till it gets to the end of the couch, and it felt like it was teetering back and forth, and I let the dog do the work always. When the dog jumps off, if I pet it and say off, it's going to think, oh, I just jump back up to get on. So what I would do is if I do give it an off command, or if I escort it to the edge of the couch and then it jumps down on its own, before I pet it, I would tell it to sit, then maybe send it over here or lay down. I'd ask you to do 1 or 2 other commands and then reward them for that command, not for the getting off, because again, they'll jump back on to get the off. All right, we also, we also went over the escalating consequences. For those, if you forget those, let me know, but you took good notes, so I'm pretty sure you're gonna be comfortable with that. Remember, at first it's hiss, stand, march, then hiss, stand, no march, and then eventually just hiss. Remember, do it before the dog does it, and practice your hissing in traffic. Next time I cut you off, give him a level 7 hiss instead of the finger. Let me see, what else? Now, Bailey has some fears of some sounds, and there's some construction that's going on in the house. And so these things might be related to her thinking that she thinks she's in charge. The human put her in charge, but she's not prepared to be in charge. And now they don't listen to me, and so I'm insecure because I just don't have the confidence to be in charge. So for a lot of dogs, once we start acting like we're a leader, that really makes a big difference. Now remember, even if it's whining or whimpering, even if you look at the dog, that's validating. So it's going to be hard. You just got, and don't look away. Just kind of pretend like it's not even there. I know these things are hard, but they're not that hard, but it'll just take a little bit of time to get in a habit. So remember, petting with a purpose is paycheck, the watchword. Passive training is celebrate. So vocabulary means that you're saying a different word than what the official vocabulary word is, and definitely come up with a list of the official command words, put them on the fridge or somewhere, and you can say vocabulary and check each other if you're using the wrong word. I also say vocabulary if you said way too many words, and repeat or rerun if you're saying come, 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 come. Repeat. Remember, only say it once. The more you say it, the less you mean it. Remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet is what you're reinforcing. So the dog jumps up and you pet it, you're reinforcing the jump. If it whines, you're reinforcing the whine. Also for unbalanced states of mind. So if you pet a fearful dog, you make it more fearful. Excited dog, more excited. Aggressive, so on. So you can lay your hand on the dog's back or his side or wherever, and that's comforting for them. But as soon as you start petting, you'll amplify it. Now, both dogs are excitable, and excited is not the same as being happy. So when you come home and they're all excited, walk around as if they are completely invisible. Try to shimmy away if they try to jump up on you. We don't want to reward that. And wait for them to settle down. As soon as they settle down, you'll start reaching for them, and you'll make it like if the plant is the dog, you'll make it like this far, and then start wiggling, pull your arm back, go back to doing what you're doing. It'll take a lot of repetitions of starting and stopping, but eventually the dog realizes as soon as I get excited, that's when the process stops. As soon as I'm calm, they're on top of me. So I'll start being calm because that's the behavior that gets me what I want, the attention that I want. And calm is when they're going to be able to think better, be more clear, concise, understand what's going on. Once the dogs are reactive, for Bailey, when she's on a walk, just increase the distance. If she's barking at somebody, I would have a kind of a shorten up the leash and walk around a car or something to block her sight and wait for her to settle down. Like I said, I'm hoping that after about a month, these things have subsided quite a bit, but I'm going to count on you because I'm not going to be here. So if I don't hear from my clients, no news usually means good news. So if you do have continuing problems a month from now, let me know. We can come back and we can work on some counter conditioning for the sounds, brush up on the other stuff that you went over. And that's just a 1 hour session where we really drill down on specific stuff. This first one, we just have to cover so many things that cover the marking that are not a direct line we just got talking about. That's okay. Guardian did a great job of keeping Leo off the furniture, but he kept on being persistent. And that is the dog's way that they win, is by outlasting us. Remember, one of the dirty secrets of dog behavior is always outlasting your dog. So try to create a scenario when you have time. You're not trying to cook something or watch the game or entertain. That's the worst time to try to teach, and that's for some reason that's the only time we try to teach our dogs. We don't even try to teach them. We're just trying to get them to behave, but in the moment, it's the worst time to learn. So when you have a couple minutes, try to set aside, put a box on the floor and watch the dog through a mirror or whatever, like I talked about in the video above, and be ready. Create scenarios where you can help the dog learn or practice the activities you want when you have time. Last thing for Bailey, you can try walking her with other dogs. So your neighbor dog that likes to bark, a lot of times the only thing the dog remembers about the other dog is the last part of the encounter. I barked at them and then I got scolded and we went away. So negative things happened when I barked at you. That's not the best example because that might be a bit of a detraction. But basically, a lot of times the dogs get confused about these sort of things. So the more concise we are in terms of petting with a purpose and passively training them, the more they understand the things we want and the more they will emulate those specific behaviors. All right. Leo. Not coming. So I think in this house, they've been both getting so much attention, they really don't have to work for it. So it might be a day or two before they start actually recognizing that. But then when you miss out on the stuff that I don't know. He's pretty whimpering. So again, you have to kind of decide, maybe for a week, I'll pet you for a sit, but after a sit, you sit and whimper. I don't pet. I only pet for a quiet sit. Or I start petting you, you sit and I start petting you and you start whimpering, then I stop the petting. And just lean back on the couch. There you go. And see how quickly now he jumped up, but he stopped the whimpering. You pull out your phone and then right there, just stand up. Don't just stand up. And the Guardian still was a softie kind of holding on to the dog. We don't want to hurt the dog, but if we're always breaking their fall and being super gentle and giving the elevator ride down, they're not going to learn very well from that. I don't want them to get hurt. But if you can, try to flash your hand at the last minute or stand up immediately. They'll start recognizing, they'll just jump down. And it's not like they're going to fall and hurt themselves. All right, now if you have any questions, please call or text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going great. So let me know if you have any questions or problems. I don't care how long it is down the road. Well, normally I would say that this is Leo, and this is Bailey, and this is their roadmap to success, but we'll have to pretend like they're here. But remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.